Grab yourself a pint and delicious plate of potatoes with eel sauce. It's time to meet a family more dysfunctional than my own. House of Guinness, from the creator of Peaky Blinders, is a riveting drama based on the real-life Guinness family, and in this video we'll be looking at the show's ending, what might happen in Season 2, and just how faithful it is to what really happened. But before we see who's getting everything in my will, make sure to like and subscribe. My 4 secret mistresses aren't going to pay for themselves. House of Guinness follows the Guinness family. Yes, the same name as the world-famous beer known for its delicate pour, creamy head, and Irish car bombs. While the Guinness family can trace its heritage back to the early 1700s, the show focuses on a pivotal era that will either see the business grow into an international leviathan or lead the family to its ruin. It all starts with the death of Benjamin Lee Guinness, the family patriarch who took the family's brewery, one established in 1759, and accelerated its growth into a multi-million-dollar powerhouse. The man was not only an industry titan but a political heavyweight, first serving as Lord Mayor of Dublin in 1851 and later MP for Dublin City in 1865. His death, however, not only leaves uncertainty for the company and his children, but for all of Ireland. In 1868, the year our story begins, Ireland was not its own nation-state. It was still part of the United Kingdom of Great Britain, and its laws were made all the way over in London at Westminster. The context is important, as one of the major driving forces of Season 1 is the struggle between the Fenian Brotherhood, who wanted a fully independent Irish republic, by force if necessary, and the Unionists, aka Conservatives, who wanted to stay with Great Britain. Benjamin Guinness was a staunch Unionist, but as we'll see with his son Edward, if they want the business to expand, they'll have to make some unlikely allies. But where things get really interesting is the reading of Ben's will. Ben had 4 children, Arthur, Edward, Anne, and Benjamin Jr. Anne, partly because she's a woman and already married, gets nothing, except for access to the family's estates at her brother's discretion. Benjamin Jr. is given a monthly bursary due to his alcoholism, as Arthur will later state that giving Ben money is like handing him a loaded revolver. In a shocking twist, Arthur and Edward are given joint ownership of the brewery, but with an interesting caveat. If either brother declines or retires from the brewing business, then that brother shall forfeit everything. All divisions, requests, and property will be removed from the brother who wishes not to continue. It's a sneaky way to keep both children involved in the business and essentially chains the two together.
He cannot be left alone, not ever.
I am chained to him.
This makes for some interesting drama because if one of the brothers messes up, it will negatively affect the other. And boy, do our brothers get in some truly messed up situations. By the time we get to the season's final episode, several years have passed and Guinness has expanded to become the largest brewery in the world, with much of that expansion taking place in the Americas. This has made the family even more powerful, but along with that power comes mounting threats. This is Paddy Cochrane, a member of the Fenian Brotherhood tasked with the assassination of Arthur Guinness. At the time, Arthur was running for MP of Dublin, and as a Conservative member would have been pro-Union, something the Fenians were vehemently against. But the show does a great job at giving Paddy some deeply personal motivations on top of this for wanting to kill a member of the Guinness family. It was the Guinness family that exiled him to America, and to add insult to injury, Edward Guinness was boinking his sister. And while the show dramatizes this big assassination attempt against Arthur, this never happened in real life. Paddy is a completely fictional character, and while the Fenians did conduct targeted killings of political figures, Arthur was never one of them. Arthur's election campaign is spurred in large part by his cousin Byron Hedges, aka Joffrey Baratheon.
You can't insult me!
Byron is an interesting character because he was the bastard son of a Guinness mother and a Fenian father, allowing him to tightrope walk between these two worlds.
Sooner or later, you're gonna have to make friends with the Fenians, cousin. I am the bridge which you can walk across from boat to dock without cost or commitment.
This makes him the perfect candidate for American expansion, as Guinness wouldn't even be allowed to dock in Boston or New York if it weren't for the approval of the Fenians. Byron will later agree to give the Fenians 15% of every Guinness sold in exchange for distribution. If the knowledge of this deal ever got out, it would ruin Guinness. Imagine being pro-union while simultaneously funding the opposing party. It doesn't help that the de facto president of the company, Edward has fallen in love with the Fenian assassin's sister, Ellen. It's a forbidden love of the highest order. She is Catholic, he is Protestant. She is poor, he is rich. She is Fenian, he is Union. Ultimately, Edward marries his third cousin, Adelaide Guinness, and one of the recurring themes we'll see throughout the season is how time and time again, Edward will choose the company even over himself and his family.
Because in all the world, Edward, when it comes down to blood and beer, the brewery is all that matters.
The irony is that even though the Guinnesses may be one of the most powerful and wealthiest families in Ireland, they are still bound by societal norms that prevent them from being truly free. Edward and Ben can't be with the ones they love. Arthur can't be open about his sexuality, and Anne's subsistence is tied to the men in her life. As Arthur says of the Guinness name,
"You must walk away from anyone with this cursed name. There is nothing but bleakness and blackness will come from any connection."
In episode 106, a bullet from the quote Dublin Poor was given to the Guinnesses, but with them having so many enemies, they aren't sure who it's from. I think it's safe to say this was a warning from the Fenian Brotherhood foreshadowing this assassination. The man in charge of finding the assassin is Arthur's foreman, Sean Rafferty. The guy is a violent, womanizing manipulator, yet you can see the tragedy of his situation. He, like the Guinnesses, is a prisoner of his own station. When it's revealed that Arthur Guinness may be exposed for being a homosexual, a crime the show says can land you in jail for 20 years, Arthur is forced to venture into a mariage blanc, essentially a marriage in form, not function. Lady Olivia Hedges ends up being the perfect candidate for his wife. In exchange for playing the part of wife and being okay with Arthur's sexuality, Arthur will pay off her father's debt and allow her to see any man she wishes as long as it does not develop into a more emotional relationship. And of course, that's what happens. Even though Arthur allowed the sexual relationship between Olivia and Rafferty, the two have crossed the line into love, even conceiving a child which will later be aborted in London. These actions compel Arthur to clamp down on his wife's indiscretion. If she does not cease her relationship with Rafferty, he will fire him and kick Olivia to the streets, putting her in the same dire financial situation as before. This is arguably Arthur's most villainous moment in the series, but it's what makes the characters in this show so interesting. Their villainy is almost always the result of a social system that compels them to act in ways that fit the societal norm. Now, Olivia so loves Rafferty that when she's supposed to be telling him they can't see each other, she devises a plot that's the exact opposite. Rafferty himself vows that one day they will be together. Few men know the true extent of the Guinnesses' secrets, making Rafferty a dangerous man. In real life, there's no credible evidence that suggests Lady Olivia had any such affair, but it is said she had a happy but childless marriage. Arthur's sexuality, however, is thought to have been questioned, with Joe Joyce's book The Guinnesses stating Arthur was most likely gay and confirming the conditions of his marriage were agreed upon in advance. Although not as major a character as his brothers, Benjamin Jr. ends up taking his lover Christine as mistress. But then again, this is unconfirmed. He ends up joining the Royal Horse Guards, but I couldn't find any evidence of him seeing combat. His regiment goes on to fight in Egypt, so maybe season 2 will see him there. Anne, whose body was stricken by an unknown degenerative illness, would help the Guinness family's work in philanthropy, going on to found St. Patrick's Nursing Home in Dublin and expanding Alexandra College. As of the writing of this video, a season 2 has not been announced, but creator Stephen Knight has stated there's so much more to come, and executive producer Ivana Lowell hinted the show could even focus on different generations. Since the assassination attempt of Arthur is completely fictitious, I think we can assume Arthur will survive this attack. But what will be interesting is if he's injured, if Rafferty takes the bullet, or if Rafferty ends up killing Patty, even after Ellen pleaded with him not to do it. And if you're Rafferty, letting Arthur die might actually be to his benefit, as Olivia would then be widowed and they could continue their affair. If the next season continues the timeline and keeps to what actually happened, we can look forward to the following events. Arthur wins the election and will be appointed a Baron of Ardelon in 1880, fulfilling his father's lifelong dream.
We both grow up and fulfill our father's dream of becoming true aristocracy.
In 1876, Edward buys Arthur out of his share of the company in what today's value would be $88.5 million. How this works into the father's will caveat remains to be seen. We might also see the death of Anne, further company expansion, and the Loch Mask murders, a scandal in which 2 of Arthur's employees were found murdered after serving eviction notices to tenants living on Guinness land. Their bodies were found bound and weighted down by stone in Loch Mask Lake and led to a series of controversial trials, which saw 3 Irish-speaking men hung with little to no evidence and no direct eyewitnesses. I do hope that House of Guinness comes back. There's still a lot more story to be told, and overall it's just a really well-crafted and enjoyable show. But what did you think? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember,
Daddy loves you very much.